Hello, everybody. It's Pineapple here, and as you can see on my screen is a copy of the ban list that has just dropped approximately 10 or so minutes ago. And it's a wild one. I'm not gonna lie. I like some of the things that it does, and I dislike some of the other things that it does, and we're gonna talk about those in depth and what it all means for the future, and what it means for the metagame. Because I know I've been away, but I do like to talk about it and all that good stuff. So first up, we're gonna talk about the forbidden changes because these are obviously the big ones. Link Karibo. If you don't want to touch Snake Eye, you got to touch the things in the extra deck. So what do? You take away the card that is, recursion. It just does everything for them. It lets them dodge interruption. It's a Link one that's broken. And so now, if you're a Snake Eyes pilot, you're going to have to, go into Anima off of your, popular Link one, which, is not ideal, I don't think. Anima is just a guy that lets you put Poplar in Grave and trigger it, which is significantly less powerful than, say, making a Link one that lets you dodge targeted interruption. Next up, Baron de Fleur. This is a controversial one. I'm on the fence about it. I know a lot of people, especially rogue players in particular, despise Baron. I'm a little bit, sort of indifferent because a lot of the times, you design your combo line so that you don't lose to Nibiru by making an early Baron. And I kind of like that dynamic that Baron created, that where a lot of times you could choose to commit to it before 5 summons, and figuring out how to do that was often felt pretty good. But again, I do agree that it's a very oppressive card. It does a whole lot. There are some things that don't really need to be stable to it, like the pop effect. So all in all, I'm iffy on seeing it go. But the next hit, Savage Dragon, as well as another generic sort of Omni, although this one I think is much more of an end board piece than something that insulates you from hand traps. Because more often than not, except with Snake Eye exactly, you weren't really able to put a Savage on board before 5 summons and then get nibbed. Savage was also way easier to interact with. Like when they used the effect to equip, you can just nib them. It was just a different card. I don't think this card needed to be hit. It was just a cool card. I liked Savage. I'm a little sad to see this go as someone who owns a QC copy. But overall, it's not the worst thing in the world. I'm not opposed to removing Omni negates. Especially more generic ones. But this one I think is a little bit unjust. I'm kind of fine with Savage, but again, it's fine that it's gone. It's not the end of the world that a generic Omni is off the table. Summon Limit as well has been gone. Good riddance. We don't like floodgates. Nobody likes floodgates. Get them out of here. But we need to talk about the elephant in the room when they're hitting generic Omnis that they are missing, and that is Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess. I do not understand why this card is not included in the list of, all of the stupid generic Omni cards. If you're hitting that, where is Appo is my question, which is really weird that they didn't touch this. I guess because it's getting reprinted in Rarity Collection 2 would be my guess. But I'm really disappointed to not see Appo on this list because she's obviously the most frustrating. You either can beat over an Appo or you can't. And if you can't, you probably lose the game. So I'm a little bit scuffed to say that we don't see Appaloosa here when we're removing a bunch of generic tools that are really unfun and frustrating. For the limits, there's a lot of unhits. There's only unhits, with the exception of Anti-Spell. And we're going to talk about this because I'm not really happy with these. Some of these obviously are different. But Arch-Nemesis Protoss, namely, is just not a fun fucking card. Nobody likes Arch-Nemesis Protoss. There has never been a fun game that has happened when Arch-Nemesis Protoss has hit the field. You just blind Protoss called Dark game 1, and games 2, there's a probably pretty good chance that you know what your opponent is playing. You make an attribute that they want to play with, and then you call that attribute, and they cannot play the game. This card is not fun. It is not interesting. It does not add anything of value to the format except making Sword Soul players steal some games. So I guess now Sword Soul versus Labyrinth is going to be a nightmare because whoever goes first will win the game because Sword Soul will go for Protoss and call Dark, and Lab will go for D-Barrier and, obviously call Synchro and the game will end. Why is this back? That's all I have to say. Title, this could have come back like a year ago. Good to see the Dragon Rulers back. It's very cool. They do interesting, fun things. I'm happy to see them. I guess Keshtira Ruler is now an interesting deck. And I'm actually really excited to see if that deck does things. I doubt it because pure cash is probably better because you're just kind of playing cash beatdown. Thunder Dragon Colossus. This is another searchable floodgate, guys. Like why? Like you just banned Summon Limit, and you limited Anti-Spell Fragrance, which are unsearchable floodgates. You have limited Rivalry Goes in Tikaboo in an effort to say continuous floodgates are bad. We do not like them. But hey, here, have this searchable extra deck Link 1 floodgate. That's a mistake. Everyone is crying about Droll and Lockbird, and it boggles my mind that we have people who are celebrating the return of Colossus. a card that is quite literally just a one-sided draw in Lockbird, with the exceptions of like your pot of like desires and stuff. But why is this back? Like it doesn't there's nothing added to the format by unbanning Colossus. It's not going to be enjoyable. It'll show up in some dumb combo where someone uses Cupid Pitch to search Nemesis Corridor, and then it will ruin someone's day. There's nothing added by this card. Magic Spectre Unicorn Kieran, this should have come back last list. Happy to see it back. Good job. We're happy to, we love having Kieran, sort of mid-rangey pendulum decks. I'm a big fan of. I like that sort of style of gameplay. I don't think that pendulum is a mistake. I think that, a lot of the things that are centered around pendulum are the result of it just having access to so many generic omnis. And the fact that Magic Spectre plays in a different style, I'm happy to see and see if it can do something in the metagame. I doubt it, but it's good to see it come back. Chicken Game, this is another generic draw spell that loses you in time. I guess congratulations, Exodia players. You now have one more copy of, a draw spell. But, you didn't need to bring this back. I don't think anything is added to the format. It's one of those things where it's like you're decluttering the ban list, but like just unbanning it doesn't do anything except maybe enable some FTKs. I don't like generic draw spells. I think that a critical mass of them is dangerous, and we should do everything in our power to stay away from that. Anti-spell fragrance, good riddance, goodbye. Less floodgates, good. We all hate them. We're glad to see them go. Going first, going stronger is bad. Get rid of them. Huzzah, good riddance, anti-spell. Semi-limits, Armageddon Knight, and Delicious Memory. Yeah, Pearly is fine. I don't like the gameplay loop that Pearly enables because I think the Towers monsters are, inherently just lazy and bad design. But specifically, Noir is probably one of the more fair Towers monsters. Assuming that everything works out, you should be able to out it because of exactly Underworld Goddess. But Delicious Memory coming back makes me a little bit nervous. I would have not liked them to bring this back, but it's fine. I think Pearly is fine to exist. And giving them more consistent access to Delicious is fine because Plump is a really good card. And Armageddon Knight is, that's a dangerous card, but like with Isolde banned, it's kind of fine. But like Armageddon Knight does everything. Like Dark is just so generic, and just Foolish of Dark is very, very strong. But I'm interested to see if like anyone can cook up some starters with, now that Armageddon Knight is at 2, so you can play like in theory 3 with Rhoda. I'm interested to see what happens with this. It makes me nervous because again, he's a generic guy who is just really, really good, and he's not a once per turn. So I'm a little nervous, but if I'm wrong, I probably will be. And then for Unlimits, Mali, expect this to go back on 2 to the next list because they do this, about once every 2 years. They'll be like, hey, let's put Mali to 3, and then they're like, some dumb Dark Warrior combo deck showed up. Mali is back to 2. They do this every so often. They're like, Mali is fine now, and now it's not, and it's gone. So expect this to change relatively recently. But again, congratulations, Hero players. You can play another brick in your deck for a higher ceiling, I guess. We then have Harp Horror. I don't even think you play more than one Harp at this point, right? Like, all the Orcus cards are kind of bricks, and we have kind of learned that without the existence of Nightmare Mermaid exactly, the Orcus doesn't really change that much. I think the Orcus Runic deck is really cool. And if this gets a boost because, suddenly you can play 2 Harp and that, like, changes the math on that deck, that'd be awesome. I would be more than happy to see Orcus, make a return, although Crescendo is not a card that I would like to see around, but it is what it is. Terror Top, you can make rank 3s, better now, I guess. It's just a generic 3 you can summon. Terror Top's fine. I don't really think that, like, going Terror Top for Takatomborg for, Cherubini, send, like, Water Enchantress is, like, the end of the world or anything. I'm fine with Terror Top. If you unbanned MX Saber Invoker and, like, Dryden, maybe I would be a little more nervous, but, I'm fine with Terror Top. This is totally fine. And Engage to 3 is completely fine. Striker's not doing anything, and the parts of Striker that do things are exactly the, like, Hornet drones and, like, Kagari that you use as, like, a link engine to generate advantage and, like, maybe search a Widow Anchor with, like, Princess and stuff. So, like, I'm kind of fine with, like, Striker being literally at full power. I don't think that its resource loop is so tight anymore that it will enable you to just win the game. I am certain that, there will be times where your opponent at locals who loves Striker is going to, engage into engage into engage, and you're just going to be like, well, this is great. But it's fine. If you're a lab player and you're getting really frustrated by, Striker out-resourcing you, just play Terrors of the Overroot and set the Ray to their field, and they will lose the game and curl up in a ball and cry. But again, I think this list does something we haven't seen in a while, which is address generic problems which will hurt the best deck in order to curb the level of the power of the format back down, and subsequently enable more decks to shine. I think that you are going to see a dip off of very much of pure Snake Eye, at least. Pretty much all of their generic end board pieces are kind of gone. Your average Snake Eye end board was trying to look like an IP Masquerade and the Spell Trap with like maybe like a Princess Engrave and like a Savage and like a Formula Synchron to make like, you know, all sorts of garbage on the opponent's turn. Like this is gone. Like you have to completely rethink Snake Eye. You have to completely rethink just about everything. But let's talk about sort of some of the implications, because I want to sort of dive into that. And what I really like about what this list does, they didn't touch Snake Eye in like dumb consistency ways, which I kind of am fine with. Like obviously I think Ash to 1 was a pretty layup of a hit, but I'm kind of glad that they didn't. I think that's a pretty good sign. They didn't touch Bonfire. Which is nice, because I don't think Bonfire is a broken card. Rotas are only as good as their targets, and Rotas that are once per turn are completely fine at 3. The only Rota that's a problem is exactly reinforcements of the army. And that's also because Warrior is, obviously has the broadest pool to search from. But I'm glad that they didn't do something stupid like limit Ash and like remove like original, or like limit Wanted and like Witch to make some dumb, frustrating consistency hits. I really like that. I think that's such a cool way to keep like that engine and style of gameplay in, because I think that that's like a pretty reasonable thing. I don't hate that. I think Witch is a cool card. I think that the fact that it can search you something like a Subversion is really awesome. I like that it's kind of a level 7 extender. I'm really happy to see Wanted and the Diabellstar engine stay around. And then on top of that, I'm happy that like again, like they didn't do something like stupid or insane. Again, like limit Witch or limit Ash. But limiting Ash would actually be a good hit because it lowers the grind of the deck. But I like that they're keeping that grind around for Snake Eye, because I think that that actually is an interesting component of Snake Eye. I'm a little bit disappointed we haven't seen Hot Red Calamity on this list. Like why? Like do you like you're banning all these dumb unfun cards, or cards that are generally viewed as sort of unfun by at least a large enough portion of the community to warrant banning them. But we have chosen to just not touch one of the like most hated cards that just adds nothing to the format. So where's he at? But other than that, I think this list shakes up the format in a way that is unique and actually forces you to play decks in different ways. I'm disappointed that some dumb floodgates that are searchable are back, namely Protoss, because it's just not a fun card, man. Neither is Colossus. But again, we'll see what this does with the format. I'm actually really interested. I'm very much looking forward to this upcoming format now. Although I'm very scared of Tenpai. I'm not looking forward to that. But again, if you guys did enjoy this sort of breakdown discussion, thought process, make sure you guys like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.